homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places.
You know what, Mr. Trump? I had high hopes for you, man. You know, a lot of people put their hopes and their dreams in you that you're going to change this country for the better. And all I've seen is you going back on the words you said you were going to not commit to any more foreign wars. And all I've seen is more war. All I've seen is your commitment to Israel's success and their insane endeavors that they're doing over there. And I've seen very little display of any true patriotism or true dedication to the American people. And then you say shit like this. I don't give a fuck if somebody's committed a crime in this nation. I don't give a fuck if a citizen has stolen a car or done anything like that, or even heinous criminals, man. You cannot start deporting criminals. So where does it stop? Who dictates who's criminal? That line can be skewed very quickly. And you're talking about deporting American citizens? Go fuck yourself.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we break down the story shaking the nation. Today, we are diving into a jaw-dropping headline that is sending shockwaves across America. President Donald Trump has just dropped a bombshell: plans to deport homegrown American citizens to overseas prisons. And yes, you heard that right. According to the recent statement, Trump is reportedly in talks with El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele, suggesting the US may need 5 more places to hold what he refers to as problem citizens. This radical proposal has ignited a firestorm of controversy, with citizens, politicians, and legal experts calling it everything from unconstitutional to a dangerous descent into authoritarianism. But what exactly does this mean for the average American? Could we really be entering an era where citizens are exiled for desert or disorder? And how is the public reacting? From outrage in the street to fiery debates online, stick around as we break it down, the facts, the fallout, and what this could mean for the future of freedom in America. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because in times like this, staying informed is power.
Homegrowns are next. Yeah, he's coming for all of us. Donald Trump, in a recent meeting with El Salvador's president, doubled down on a previous idea of sending U.S. citizens to foreign concentration camps abroad. With Donald Trump saying homegrown criminals next, I said homegrowns are next, the homegrowns. You gotta build about 5 more places, referring to concentration camps. Now, Donald Trump is trying to soften the blow of statements like this by saying that he's really only referring to like violent criminals, people doing really heinous things within the borders of the so-called United States. But it's very clear, if you've been watching and paying attention, what the trajectory is here. The Trump administration is using this idea of like violent criminals in all of our communities to justify fascist policymaking and the continued funding and support of fascist agencies and institutions like ICE and the DHS. And as we've seen from the arrest of students like Mahmoud Khalil and others, it's very clear that what Trump is actually doing is not simply targeting violent criminals, but targeting those he views as dissidents and people he sees as quote unquote undesirables. He uses the rhetoric of violent criminals, of illegals, and more because he knows that more people in this country are willing to accept the fascist actions when the target population is not them. When the target population is someone framed as undesirable, a leech on the system, someone causing harm. But the goal here is, and really always has been, fairly obvious, right? He's trying to widen the net as far as possible so he can use these sorts of agencies and policies against whoever he deems as opposition. And a lot of people are probably going to wake up over the next couple of years being very surprised over just how easily their lives have been able to be classified as threats to national security or threats to the status quo. Fascism is here and it is alive and well, and it is up to us to decide what happens next. Something really worth thinking about, I think. But yeah, as always, assalamu alaikum and have a great day.
Correct. The homegrowns will be anti-Trump people, not real criminals. Yes, he is that hateful and petty. I believe it was my other account I talked about this on. But just a quick Google search here with me. Dissenters of the party faced severe consequences, including arrest, imprisonment, torture, execution, and deportation to concentration camps. The Gestapo and other authorities actively suppressed any opposition using show trials and summary justice to target resistance groups and individuals. Many dissenters were members of the Social Democratic Party or other groups that the deemed enemies of the state. This has happened before, people. Like, there's history to teach us what is going to happen if we don't stop what is currently happening under this administration. It won't stop with criminals, with immigrants. It won't stop with brown people or black people. If you're not a straight, white, heterosexual, I already said straight, cisgender, male, Christian, you're not safe. If you've ever sent a text message, recorded a video, or done anything expressing your disdain with Donald Trump, you're not safe. If you have a family member who is LGBTQ or you yourself, and you don't self-report or turn your family member in, you're not safe. We're not safe. Correct.
So now, both the President of the United States and the President of El Salvador are both refusing to return the wrongfully deported Maryland man back to the United States, despite there being a court order for this to be done. So yesterday, on Monday, during a sitting between both presidents from the United States and El Salvador, they both confirmed that they will not be returning the migrant that was wrongfully deported. So this is from an article from MSN.com. It states that El Salvador president, sitting next to President Donald Trump in the Oval Office, said on Monday that he will not return Kilmar Arbegado Garcia, a migrant from Maryland who was wrongfully deported. And this is in quotations. I don't have the power to return him to the United States. This is what the president of El Salvador is stating. Then he follows up with, how could I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? He added, repeating that the Trump administration claims that Arbegado Garcia is a terrorist gang member of MS-13, which is all false. His lawyer, Arbegado Garcia, literally stated that Arbegado Garcia has never been convicted of any of those felons, has never been arrested, has never been in any type of trouble. These are all the lies that the Trump administration put on him in order to be able to deport him. And now that was the reason why when the federal judge looked it up and was like, there's nothing on this man, they ordered for him to be returned back. But Trump since then went to one of the justices on the Supreme Court and had him block the court order, telling them to bring back this migrant. And then now he has the help of El Salvador president, who literally quoted and self-titled himself as the world's coolest dictator. Now, the Trump administration, this administration standing 10 toes down on refusing to return a wrongfully deported man, literally shows us that we're all in for a way bigger problem. We heard at the beginning of this presidency of this administration that he was going to try to find legal ways to have American citizens deported, okay? We know that that is illegal. However, we also know that this is what he's been trying to do. This was the rumor that he wanted to do it. And a lot of us felt like, you know what, it's really probably BS because it's illegal. But look at what's going on now. And in that conversation, when he met up with the president of El Salvador, they actually caught a little bit of the conversation on his mic, him promising the president of El Salvador that he was going to figure out a way to send homegrowns, yes, that's what he calls American citizens, homegrowns, to prison in El Salvador, and told the El Salvador president that he's going to need to build about 5 more places to be able to house all of y'all. Again, this is coming from MSN.com. So Trump's administration has already deported immigrants to El Salvador's notorious mega prison, CECOT, known for its harsh conditions. And that's really the reason why they don't want that man to come back here, because not only did they send him there illegally, but when he comes back here, he's going to be able to tell everybody exactly what they're doing to those prisoners over there. We know that it's known for its harsh conditions, as listed right here in the article. So when he comes back, if he can come back, you understand, he's going to be able to say exactly what the fuck they've been doing to him in there. And that's going to look really bad for both El Salvador and for Donald Trump. Let's keep reading, though. It states here that the president also said in his administration that he's trying to find legal ways to ship U.S. citizens there too. Trump on Monday insisted that these would just be violent people, implying that they would be those already convicted of crimes in the United States, though he has also floated it as a punishment for those who attacked Tesla dealerships to protest his administration and his friend billionaire Elon Musk. Now, the problem is it would most likely be illegal because it's a violation of the U.S. Constitution for his administration to send any native-born citizen forcibly to an overseas prison. But that's what he's trying to figure out what to do.
It's a little hard to hear, but if you listen closely, you can just make out what the president is saying as he enters the Oval Office today with the president of El Salvador.
I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Laughter all around. That was Donald Trump today talking to the president of El Salvador, a man who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. And you could hear there what sounded like Trump promising that he's about to send to...
I'm not going to lie. You MAGA people, y'all low-key kind of really fucked up. Because it's going to be you guys that get deported over to them overseas prisons. You guys are notoriously, statistically known, historically known for committing some of the most heinous crimes in the world. See, Black and Hispanic people are usually being incarcerated on drug-related crimes. And they're given the maximum because they want to be able to have slaves again. But
Alright, let's get straight to it. Donald Trump has suggested that not only should undocumented immigrants be deported, but that homegrown American citizens might be next. That is right. In a shocking, highly controversial statement, Trump reportedly told El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele that the US would need to build about 5 more places overseas to house what he referred to as problem people. This suggestion, deporting American citizens to prisons in other countries, specifically El Salvador. Now, regardless of where you stand politically, this crosses into an unprecedented and deeply dangerous territory. Let's unpack it. First, legality. Deportation is by definition the act of removing a non-citizen from a country. A person who is born in the United States, holds U.S. citizenship, and enjoys constitutional protections and cannot be deported under any existing law. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld the constitutional rights of citizens, even those convicted of crimes. The idea of forcibly relocating American citizens to foreign prison isn't just controversy, it's flat out unconstitutional. So what does this mean? Is Trump suggesting a new legal framework where citizenship no longer protects you from exile? Is he floating the idea of revoking citizenship for dissented criminals or political enemies? This is the kind of language you hear in an authoritarian regime, not in a functional democracy. And let's not talk about what this signal politically means. Trump is known for his tough on crime, tough on immigration historic, but this goes far beyond that. This is a test of the waters, a public suggestion that perhaps the government should be able to decide which citizens deserve to stay and which should be exported like contraband. That is a terrifying precedent. To even propose something like this publicly, to suggest it to a foreign head of state, is not just reckless diplomacy. It's a threat to the foundational principle of America. We are not just talking about policy disagreement here. We are talking about human rights, due process, constitutional protection, and civil liberties. Now, let's take a moment to explore the reactions. The internet is on fire. Hashtags like Deportation Madness and Authoritarian alerts are trending on X and TikTok. Civil rights organizations are already sounding the alarm. The ACLU issued a rapid response statement calling the idea a constitutional crisis in the making. Even some conservatives are stepping back from this one, arguing that there is a line between firm national security policy and dangerous authoritarian overreach, and this crosses it. Legal scholars are already theorizing how Trump might attempt to justify such a move. Would he classify these individuals as domestic terrorists? Would he propose emergency power in the name of national security? The Patriot Act and other post-9/11 policy already give the government more surveillances and detention power than many Americans realize, but forcibly removing citizens and sending them back is an entire different level of state control. And here is where things get even more unsettling. The precedent this could set. Let's say, for the sake of argument, this policy were somehow enacted. Even in the smallest, more limited form, it opens the door for the government to define what kind of behavior gets you relocated. Is it gang activism, protest organizing, speaking out against the government, voting for the wrong party? We have seen this movie before in countries like Russia, North Korea, and even China's handling of certain dissentency. It never ends well. And from a global standpoint, this kind of historic damages America's international image. How can we lecture the world about democracy, freedom, and human rights when we are entertaining the idea of deporting our own people to foreign prisons? Let's not forget the deeper implications. Trump's comment to Bukele wasn't just about prison space, they were about building an LICs. El Salvador under Bukele has been making headlines for his tough approach to gang violence, mass arrests, mega prison, and heavily criticized due process violations. While crime is down, human rights groups are sounding alarms about how the order is being achieved. So when Trump praises Bukele and says we need more 5 places like this, he's not just taking logistics. He's saying we need a system like El Salvador's, a system where civil liberties take a backseat to state control, and that should terrify anyone who values democracy, regardless of political affiliation. Now, let's look at this from a human perspective. Imagine being born in America, living your life here, and suddenly being told that you are no longer welcome, that you are a problem and must be shipped off to a prison in another country. No trial, no defense, no jury of your peers, just a plane ticket to a foreign prison system. That is dystopia. There is a fine line between law and authoritarianism, and this crosses it boldly. History has showed us time and time once a government decides it and exile its own citizens, the floodgates open. Political rivals, journalists, activism, no one is safe. Now, to be fair, some of Trump's supporters argue that he's simply using tough history, that he's sending a message, not laying out actual policy, but that is part of the problem. When political figures float these kinds of ideas without accountability, they normalize authoritarian thinking. They shift the overturn window, and what is considered acceptable discourse, and soon what seems outrageous becomes policy. And once that door is open, it's hard to close. The deeper question here isn't just can Trump do this, is why is this even being said out loud? Why is the idea of exiling Americans even on the table in 2025? And what does that say about where our country is headed? So here's the bottom line. This isn't just about Trump. This is about power, about how far a leader can go before someone, Congress, the court, the people says enough. And if Americans don't speak up now, we may wake up one day in a country we no longer recognize. That is it for today's video. If you value democracy, if you value your right as a citizen, this is the kind of story you can't afford to ignore. Share this with your friends, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We are just getting started, and trust me, you will want to stay tuned. Until next time, stay informed and stay free.